Hello, everybody, and welcome again to this Thursday's wonderful Facebook Live event. I'm Brenda Snow, the founder and CEO of Snow Companies, and this week will not disappoint. I have an incredible, not only human being, but one of the best colleagues and people that I have the pleasure to work with, Shamel Evans, who's the Executive Vice President of the Patient Solutions vertical at the Snow Companies. And all she does every day is think about you, all of our great patients and family members and care partners. She does so many wonderful things. We could take up a whole show talking about, the service offerings that she helps the life science industries put together to always keep patients in the forefront and in the center of all that they do. We built this organization with all of you in mind. So I know sometimes pharmaceutical companies and biotech companies, don't have the best reputation. Sometimes they get a bad rap that's not deserved. But nonetheless, what we've tried to do is bridge your stories and your real life experiences and bring those to the forefront of the life science industry so that the decisions they're making about drug development, clinical trials, getting products to the market for tough medical conditions, rare medical conditions, oncology conditions, always are built with you in mind. So, and I hope that for some of you that are watching have been the great beneficiary of some really unique programs and services that we've got to work in tandem to bring. And for those of you that have just found us because you're an empowered patient, then I hope you stick around to listen to Shamel talk about the patient survey that we fielded just about a month ago. And it's really, really spectacular. So I'll let her tell you about that. Also, you can find out more about Snow Companies. You can visit us on the web at www.snow-companies.com. I know, kind of a hard one. And also one of our sisters, PatientWorthy.com. So check that out. It's a great news aggregator for rare disease. So now that I've got that mouthful out, I'm going to turn it over to the superstar, Shamel. Hey, girl.
Hello.
I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
You're welcome. So listen, tell everybody kind of like what was the driving force behind wanting to field this patient survey and the importance of it.
Thank you so much. One of the things that we wanted to do, obviously, as an organization who is dedicated and committed to the patient community, to all of you, we speak with you, we interact with you on a regular basis. And a number of our team members were having conversations with a variety of people, listening to, checking in, really trying to understand how this current global pandemic was starting to affect the community that we love and we so diligently work for every day. And in those conversations, we really started to learn a lot about some of the unique challenges that people were starting to encounter. And it really prompted us to want to dig further, to better understand and to really get more people's input and perspective on how this global pandemic is really affecting the patient community. As leaders in this space and people who are committed day to day to helping create solutions, it's important for us to have our finger on the pulse to understand really what's affecting the patient community so that we then can support and work more closely with you to create solutions to help our partners understand the needs that need to be addressed to really support the community. So the intention was really around getting the opportunity to learn, to get insight, to really understand the impact of how COVID-19 and this global pandemic was truly impacting the community. So we fielded a survey. It's completely voluntary. It was anonymous to encourage people to not feel compelled or concerned about sharing anything about their personal experience, but to just encourage everyone who was willing to share their experience with us, to help us truly understand what was happening, how their environment was changing, and how managing their healthcare was shifting in light of the current pandemic and the current environment that we're in.
Yeah. And I know, there's some top line findings, we're calling it sort of the executive summary, but there's some top line things that, and I've got all of this stuff here, guys, in front of me, but there's some things that I've highlighted on this program before, and I think are really something we all need to be mindful of as we try to go back out into our new normal, that over half of the patients. So, well, first let's take a step back. Tell me how many patients responded to the survey and sort of the breakdown of the disease areas that we had.
So we had almost 700 people respond to the survey, which is incredible. It gave us a great landscape of understanding the impact across the entire community. And it was represented across a multitude of various conditions, but some of the larger ones that were represented were people who were living with conditions within the neurology space, people with rare diseases, some oncology, pulmonology, but it spanned the gamut around pretty much everything you could possibly imagine were individuals who represented living with various conditions throughout the spectrum. And it was people who were, have medication administered different ways. Some people take their medication that's a pill, it's oral, others who may deal with infusions or have self-injections. So we wanted to make sure that we were reaching the vast majority of the spectrum of people living with all different types of conditions and who have medication administered different ways, so that we could really get a true pulse or input on how it's affecting the broader community at large.
That's great. So let's talk about some of these, overall takeaways. Let's break down a little bit about, sort of the ranking of concerns. I think in our survey, it's slide 5 on the document that you and I have, that, they all have concerns. So I know that a lot of them were psychosocial, emotional. It's like people more worried about their loved ones than themselves. But there's one that really stood out, and it had a high percentage of people worrying about the disruption to their treatment or the exercise. Can you talk about that?
No, absolutely. So as you mentioned, everyone has been affected by this global pandemic. And so no one is spared from the concern of your own health and your loved ones navigating this kind of uncertain environment. But it is true that when we looked at the concerns of the community, one of the more healthcare driven concerns really was that disruption, that ability to have an effective interaction with your physician. And we noticed that a number of people, over half of them, noted that they really did experience some type of disruption to their treatment, largely driven by delays or difficulties getting doctor's appointments scheduled or having them rescheduled in light of the current environment with social distancing, with the need to just be able to conduct it in a different way because so many doctors' offices needed to adjust for their own staff's health and wellness. And so that certainly was one of the bigger things that rose to the top as a concern, was that disruption in treatment and how you can navigate managing through that in light of the current environment.
Yeah, and I know that it must be, as me as a patient, everybody knows I have MS, that it must be so scary. I think about especially conditions that are genetic, in the oncology space, a lot of rare, lysosomal storage disorders. There's so many diseases, SMA, that if you don't have your meds, a very, very scary complication can happen. If I don't have my meds for a week or two, it's not great, but it isn't life-threatening. What are the things that patients need to be thinking about in this environment to ensure that they don't experience this disruption any longer than need be?
Absolutely. I think one of the things that came out of the survey that became apparent about how this landscape is changing is the way patients and doctors are interacting. And that shift has become a term that we're hearing more often now around telehealth or telemedicine. And that was one of the key insights that came out of the survey as well, is that to adjust in this changing environment, many people are now turning to, and the community is having to learn how to navigate a new way of having a relationship with their doctor through these virtual means. So being able to effectively conduct a virtual telehealth appointment or adjusting to the other means by which a number of physicians are interacting with their patients now through their health portals or through email. And making that adjustment with technology is the way by which to continue to make those connections, and being adamant about making sure that those follow-up appointments get scheduled.
Yeah.
Another interesting insight that came out of the survey at the time when we took it was that a number of people weren't quite sure when that next in-person appointment would take place. Over 40% of people who noted that they had a delay in their doctor's appointments were unsure as to when the next one would be scheduled. So knowing that uncertainty for when you can have that in-office appointment shouldn't deter those, this empowered community from being adamant about making sure that their healthcare continues to take place. And there are other means and other channels by which to do it. We know every doctor's office hasn't fully made the adjustment yet, and they're working through it themselves. But, making sure that you're continuing to follow up, to seek the opportunity to have that connection, whether it's that virtual appointment, to make sure you're staying in communication, whatever that is, to be able to continue to navigate and keep that healthcare moving forward is important. And being willing to make those adjustments. It's a different time where we've all had to make adjustments. We've all had to learn a new norm and a new way of doing things, and being willing to be a student of a new technology or a new way of communicating is going to be key now.
That's great. And Nancy had a question that said, Shamel, do you think we can avoid continued treatment disruptions? I think your advice that you just gave, Nancy, and for others, these are the things we're going to have to implement and adopt. Are we going to be able to avoid them more entirely, or do you think they're here to stay for a little bit?
Well, I think there's some things that we might be able to avoid by, again, being able to adjust the way we interact with the physicians and with our healthcare team. So being able to adopt a level of comfort with and openness to engaging through this type of technology, through virtual communications and adjustments are going to be key. There are other things that we'll need to continue to work through or press through, and to be adamant about being advocates for our care. So I think while we're in this period of transition, it'll be, again, a little bit of a give and take while we navigate kind of the establishment of our new norm. And as, again, some certain restrictions are lifting, some ability to be able to get back to some of the things we're accustomed to may be coming back, while others may be, again, an adjustment that continues into our future. So I think just being flexible and willing to navigate that, but also to embrace this new reality that we have is going to be important for all of us.
That's great. Shamel, we've got another listener out there that thinks you have a calming voice. So yeah, it's great. Maybe Shamel could all be our doctor or something, right? So another thing that stood out to me, and as I was preparing for this, I just heard out of the news today, 1 out of every 5 Americans are unemployed. I mean, that's intense, over 33 million unemployment. There was a financial impact that was that the survey yielded from our recipients. What did that say?
Well, one of the things that we learned as well, we asked the question, had people started to feel some type of financial impact, and about a third of our recipients mentioned that they had already started to see some of the challenges associated with that, some more serious than others. And so the reality of the fact that the economic challenges of this pandemic are real. And knowing that to be the case, it's also important to really try to take advantage of the resources that various manufacturers are providing to help support people through this time. It is a commonplace, having worked in the industry before even joining Snow, one of the things that people in the industry are committed to are making sure that there's access as much as we can, and there are special programs that are designed for that. So one of the things that the survey revealed is that patients noted that support will be needed and support will be necessary, and that it'll be important to have those types of financial support programs, other resources in place that can help people navigate changes that they may have to make to be able to continue to have uninterrupted access to their care. So being able to, check into those resources and being, again, empowered in looking for those types of things. Quite frankly, some of those resources might already be there. But it's also important. I think another reason why we wanted to do this survey was to have information that we could also help our partners in the industry understand what the needs of patients are so that they can continue to work to respond to address those needs.
Yeah, that's so important. And again, everybody, there are lots of forms of patient assistance programs available to you. So I will tell you that it might not always be super easy to find or navigate, but the first thing you want to do if you do take any kind of medication or your family member does for a serious medical condition, a chronic medical condition, make sure that you call that sort of patient support number and see if you qualify for any kind of financial support for your drug, for your pharmaceutical. And then for those of you that are outside, because it's not just the impact on copays, access, but there's a whole other host of things sort of in the patient world. We'll do a show on it here one time about ways that you can navigate advocacy and support networks to maybe augment things so you have care where there might be some gaps today. We also saw some, what we call like emotional or sociological or psychological, emotional type of issues. And we also saw a lot of people talking about preparedness, which I really appreciated. So can you share some key insights too from our almost 700 patients that took this survey?
Yeah, they talked about the importance of really making sure you stayed informed. And I think one of the things that was really encouraging to see is how people are continuing to commit to staying informed, staying aware of how to really navigate the current environment. And while so many people have kind of shifted to the national and local news as a way of getting that information, it was also noted that there was a need to hear from others, to stay connected with others, to utilize resources that really allow you to dig deeper into relevant topics that are most important for you and for your community. And so the survey revealed that patients talked about the need for interactive patient programs and other online resources, educational webinars, having virtual small groups. These were all ways to gain information that really would supplement what you would hear and what you're getting from those kind of broader national news sources, that were ways to really, again, help to ensure you are best prepared to continue to navigate and handle the journey ahead. So those were things that were really identified as areas of opportunity where we can really support and provide additional information in a meaningful way to the community.
That's great. Bridgette has a question, okay. And I don't know if you can answer this, but I'll pose it and we'll do our best, Bridgette. So she says the challenge for her, Shamel, is that her pharmacy does not have her medication in stock. Any thoughts around that?
I think one thing to mention, in the instance where her pharmacy, and I'm not sure if it's a retail pharmacy or if it's a specialty pharmacy, but in the instance where she has encountered that, if by chance it's a retail pharmacy, that may be as simple as or just looking at another retail pharmacy location in the area that may have access to it. So it might be just kind of looking at another provider of that. From a specialty pharmacy perspective, it may be a little bit different. But in regard to getting access to your medication, one of the other things, again, that we can talk about that I think would be helpful is most companies do have some type of 1-800 number or patient support resource that you could contact or call and share that this is a challenge that you're running into. And hopefully they would be able to direct you to a solution of some sort that would help you navigate that a little bit better, beyond, of course, if you've already shared that with your healthcare provider and they couldn't give you any other direction that was practical. I think another way of navigating that too may be to go to that manufacturer and see if they have any type of support program that might assist at this time.
That's great. And if you want to ask a question to Shamel or myself and we can help you, please go ahead and type it in. I have some help today. Oliver's back here. Last week I was looking down and trying to do it all. I'm too old. That dog doesn't hunt anymore. So I've got some help. So we're happy to take your questions. Go ahead and write them if you want. Again, I want to add a caveat to this. The best medical advice is the one provided from your physician and your healthcare team. Neither Shamel or I are, healthcare professionals. Some days it feels like it, but we're not, and we're not giving medical advice. We're having a chat with you and hopeful that this is inspiring to you as much as you are inspiring to us, because together, sharing ideas and thoughts and best practices, hopefully we can all lift each other up through this new world and this challenging time. So to that point, Shamel, what are some of the most surprising things that percolated to the top for you?
I think one of the surprising insights that came out of the study as well was just, again, the speed at which and the shift of the reality of that kind of changing dynamic of the patient-physician relationship shifting to be, having to navigate in a more virtual environment. It was one of the things that really did rise to the top as a topic and that the community is really adjusting to and navigating in a different way. So that need to be able to really facilitate the conversation and the interactions in a different way was something that really did rise to the top as an interesting new insight that, again, the community continues to grapple with. I think another component that was interesting as well was a little bit of what I talked about before, which was the need for information and connection, and how despite our circumstances being different, having to navigate healthcare in a different way, that need for patient-to-patient connection is that universal truth that still remains. People really talked about the importance of wanting to make sure that they still had an opportunity to connect with other people in the community, whether it was through social media, whether it was through other virtual means of connection. That was something that was not only something they were striving to do, but was something that was important, something that was communicated to be necessary and needed and helpful at this time, even probably more so at this time.
Yeah, and the other thing that I thought, and I certainly feel it, I'm a people person, I'm a hugger, I'm glad I have this because I can stay connected, but I miss that interaction and that, that energy that you get from a room of your peers, a room of people that are just like you, connecting and listening to each other's stories or to a presentation. Or I just find from my journey, it was so important. So, I think if you could talk about, like, there was still a high percentage of people that want that kind of face-to-face interaction. Yes. It's the ability to feel like safe now in the new world order.
Yes, we did ask a question, knowing the reality of experiencing social distancing, would people still be willing, once they felt safe and felt comfortable, going into an environment where they could be in a public event or, travel to something where they would engage with other people? And there was a very high response. Over 84% of the people said, yes, I would be willing to engage in that as long as I felt like, again, the environment was safe and that it was something that I could do so. So it kind of reinforced the fact that despite the global pandemic, there really still is that desire and need for that human to human connection, that desire to be together, to engage and to interact. But we also recognize that in doing that and being an organization that helps to facilitate that being thoughtful, being careful, being mindful of the best way to do it to help ensure safety is going to be paramount.
That's right. I think we're going to be working on some really awesome masks, everybody. We'll get them all bejeweled and bejazzled, and we'll have the best masks of anybody out there. So I have a question coming in. Do you have the question there? Okay, he's writing the question down. I know that, in some of the patients that I've had kind of offline conversations with, it seems to be that there's, again, this emotional component, this little bit of this overwhelming, well, what does this mean for my future? And I don't know that we have the answer to that. And I don't know that the survey could really answer that. But I know that you also, like I said, you head up the patient solutions team. It's a very big team. I know that you have a group of health educators and that, reside underneath you that are on the phone all day talking to patients. Talking to me, what are some of the things I know that you've heard about this, and maybe what the future holds? And I'm thinking about an event that you're going to be hosting soon to kind of lift people up, thinking about the future, this sort of art therapy class that you're going to be doing virtually. If anybody wants to join, maybe you could sort of talk to us about that. Oh, did Chanel disappear?
Am I back?
Hi.
Okay.
No
Can you hear
problem.
me again? Awesome.
We can.
All right. Well, I would say definitely when we think about the future, I think one of the things that's critical for all of us is to, in spite of change, in spite of a dynamic circumstance, in spite of experiencing something that we are all navigating together. I think one of the beautiful things about what we see in this dynamic, unprecedented, and times of uncertainty is seeing people band together, seeing people, the best come out of the human spirit, where we're showing empathy, care, and concern for one another in different ways. So I think one of the things when we think about our future is to try to think through it through that lens, to know, one, you're not alone. And that's why we would have programs like these to remind you that you're not alone, to have an opportunity to put a question out there, to get some help, to get some support. We commit ourselves as an organization to being there for our community. So we're here for you. But also know that the entire industry is doing the best they can to provide support as well. And that was some of what we talked about earlier. There may be resources and tools you may have never thought about, numbers you'd never considered calling, this might be the time to reach out and get that additional hand of support, but also to stay uplifted. One of the things that we did ask about and learn in the survey is people's commitment to staying positive. And when we are facing uncertainty, when you have so many questions and things you just don't control and sometimes don't completely understand, the ability to stay positive is so incredibly important, whether it's, doing things that you love, taking time out in nature, or engaging in opportunities like events we're going to have the next couple of weeks, where we get a chance to come together and do something expressive and fun, to just enjoy ourselves and to appreciate a community of people gathering together to learn a new skill and enjoy a new fun activity. So I think that's another component that's critically important. We hear that, just staying positive and keeping that positive mindset is key. That's key to keeping you creative and thinking about new ways of handling any challenge, and also keeping you motivated to navigate through some of the uncertainty.
I agree. And for everybody, I just want you to know that if you're watching and you took the survey, we are going to, ask, please. I know it's voluntary. We so appreciate your help. I think we're going to pulse it out again in a couple of months and probably do it maybe a couple more times this year to sort of see how, patients' interactions and ideas and emotions and experiences change as we get through COVID and sort of our new normal together. I want to give a few shout outs here. Lisa in Ohio says, her doctor, I know she's a cancer survivor, is scheduling appointments and seeing patients, and they're really doing a good job with gloves and masks. So thanks, Lisa, for that. Nancy asking that Snow continue to provide emotional support and help with having these discussions. You got it, girl. I'm not going anywhere. Jim, hey, telemedicine is okay, but prefer to see the doctor. I completely agree with you. Again, thanks to all of our friends from Israel, Washington, D.C., New Mexico, Ohio, Pennsylvania, California. It's really awesome. And Germany, that's really cool. This is so awesome that we've got people from all over watching this. So I can't believe 30 minutes is almost done. I know Shamel is great. We should make her a regular guest. I think, Shamel, I've just made you a regular guest because you really are sort of the central repository for everything in our patient world. And it'll be great to have you share that throughout this year. But we promote a really cool thing that I think you should do. I think you should tell your friends. So I'm taking the week off next week, guys, okay? Maybe we'll play a best of. So next Wednesday, which is the 14th, I think, it won't be a live show, maybe a replay. The following week, though, on the 21st, I'm going to have one of our health educators. She's on Shamel's team. Her name is Anna. She's amazing. And I don't know how she does it. She's like an artist, an art teacher, and even if you can't even color in a coloring book, I'm telling you, I've seen things. We're going to interview her and she's going to set the stage, and then you can join an event virtually that we're hosting, the Snow Companies, later that day on the 21st, where you will go in and you will create a piece of art that matches up to your feelings, and it will literally be worthy to hang on your wall. I have seen people that couldn't do anything do this. So, Shamel, where will we find that information? How are we going to publicize it so people can log on and enroll in that fun class?
We're going to definitely make that information available on our Snow social channels. So for all of you who are plugged in, please, we'll make sure that information is available to you so that you know how to participate and to be involved. And we encourage everyone to join us. It should be a really good time.
That's great. And I know the people that are in Israel are I'll give you a shout out, are very arty. They're wonderful arty opera people. And you guys have to do this because you'll love it. It's super creative. I know that I'll be doing it. And again, spread the word. So final thought, Shamel, before we wrap up, anything from the survey that you want to leave us with as we close out?
I think the one thing I just wanted to say first of all, thank you to all of you who took the survey and gave us the opportunity to learn from you, to hear from you. It's been our commitment since the inception of Ambassador #1 with Brenda to elevate the patient voice and to give people the opportunity to share their experience with others. That's how we learn, that's how we grow, and that's how we help to make this entire experience better for so many people living with chronic illnesses. So first, thank you for your participation, and thank you for just continuing to help us get the opportunity to learn from you. We appreciate you, and we hope that you'll continue to partner with us along the way to be able to learn even more. We hope you see our commitment to that.
Yeah. Shamel, you're the best. I love you so much. You make me cry. I love you. I love you. And I love all of you out there. So listen, I won't see you next week. I'll see you the week later for a show. We'll talk to the artist. And then that night, 6 p.m. Eastern time on May 21st, you guys can all join. It's a very simple list of supplies. It's free and it's awesome. So Shamel, I love you. You're the best. Again, to all of our patients, our care partners, our family members, you actually are our family. So keep fighting the good fight, stay positive, and if you need us, you know where to find me. Ping any of our social channels and we'll do our best to help you. Until then, I'm Brenda. Bye-bye.
Bye.